try it now. Testing, testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z.
Well, you're right. Spring has sprung. Boy, isn't it gorgeous out? The leaves coming out on the trees. I really like spring in Indiana. Good morning. And welcome to those of you joining us virtually and those of you who are present here at All Souls Unitarian Church of Indianapolis. John Murphy, pronouns he and him, and I will be serving as a worship associate for today's service. With Sarah Cannon, Director of Children's and Community Programming, pronouns she, her, and Reverend Katie Romano Griffin, our senior minister, pronouns she, ella. We are your worship team today. Love is the spirit of all souls. There it is, absolutely. If you're visiting us this morning, we're really glad that you're with us. Nursery care is available, but people of all ages are welcome in the service. We invite you and everyone here to complete a connection card. It's the end of your pew. This card helps us know how best to stay connected and support you on your life's journey. Thank you for being here today. Please bring your whole self as you join us in worship. If you would like some extra support for this life's journey, our caring team is an extension of the ministry, and they can be reached by calling 317-210-0124, and it's in a lot of our publications, so you should be able to find it. Or you can email at pastoralcare@allsoulsindy.org. That's all lowercase letters. So our Soul Matters theme this month is resistance, and you can get that material by referring to our publication In the Know, and it'll give you a link to receive the materials. Here, you can review that here at All Souls or home online.
Hola mi gente, buenos días. Buenos días. Muy bien. On a day like today, we need like a disco ball in here to bring the energy up. This is a celebration, our coming together each Sunday. We bring our full selves here. We are celebrating the joys and the sorrows of this world and the joy of community. And that's a big deal, even if we're at home still in our bunny slippers. So, folks, we know you're with us. Next week, we are having a bilingual service. I hope you will be here with us. Think Duolingo podcast. We may not translate everything word for word, so whether you are bilingual or solo English or solo Spanish speaking, you will be able to be along for the journey in celebration. We're also going to be doing a food drive for the families of the East Coast Migrant Head Start program. So check out what is needed, and that is in the weekly e-news. And IHN Family Promise is also doing a drive right now, so please do check that out. And of course, today we are celebrating spring with rain and some time in the garden. So we hope that you will engage. If you are not an outdoor garden person, we have the seed library in here, and you're welcome to help catalog a seed drawer. So there's plenty to do, however you would like to engage with the garden this day. Now, in this moment of our shared journey, may you feel witnessed and honored, whether you are here for the first time or the thousandth, whomever you are, whomever you love, whatever your ability, gender, beliefs, political affiliation, or documentation status, you are welcome here, and you are never alone. Now let us please greet our neighbors, especially our new or returning friends. Wandering in the dusk, sometimes you get lost in the dusk, and sometimes not. Beating your fists against the walls have been known to fall. Dusk turns to dawn and chains be gone. Come, let us worship.
How do y'all like my beak? It's pretty great. It's spring, so I thought I'd dress like a bird. I'm going to put you right here and come over this way a little bit so that you can light the chalice. I'm not in your way. The ritual of lighting our chalice reminds us to continually renew our promise to live into our covenant, to put love in action, and to live out the community of love and justice we aim to be. Please rise in body or spirit as Nadia lights our chalice, and we say these adapted chalice lighting words from James Villa Blake, the same words we have spoken since 1903. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. To dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. This is our covenant. You may be seated. Thank you, Nadia. Sorry I was confusing.
So today we're going to be talking a little bit about gardening. And I got to tell you, when it comes to gardening, I'm basically an incompetent bystander. My wife Jane is not much better at it, but she likes potted plants and flowers in the house. However, she has no patience for those who start to look wilty and sickly. In fact, she'll toss them out in the woods to die with dignity rather than to undertake what she considers futile attempts to nurse them back to health. So, just between you and me, I pray every day for continued good health. Just saying. Since I have no particular expertise in actual gardening, I propose to change gears and take a few minutes to explore how we might think of the church as a garden. So first, there is the ground where the garden is anchored. And the ground or soil of this church is the work and sacrifice of our UU ancestors upon which our faith is founded. Then there must be light to spur growth. The light that enables our spiritual growth is our openness to new revelation and a ready acceptance of wisdom from multiple sources. When we cast off restricting dogma, we're able to stretch our imagination and seek the light of truth together. And then finally, the essential nutrient in all of this is love, which we apply abundantly. So, okay, we've got our metaphorical garden, but a basic question remains: what exactly are we growing in this garden? Let me offer my suggestion that we grow souls here. In this garden, our collective souls are not only allowed, but even encouraged to grow. We offer a soft place to land, we say, for those seekers who come to us. Our garden offers fertile ground for strengthening roots, and it provides a nurturing environment for spiritual growth. So one aspect for me is increased knowledge and understanding of the current issues in today's society. One example is my deepening sympathy for the struggles of our LGBTQ friends. Another is my increased awareness of the terrible legacy of white dominant culture. I'm a better person for forcing myself to confront my own residual vestiges of ignorance and indifference. This church has been one of the main sources of my recognition of these and other injustices suffered by my fellow human beings in the world today. So perhaps one of the most important ways we grow in our church garden is through the interdependent nature of our relationships. Here, we are mutually supported and cared for in our individual and collective quest for truth and meaning. I think this is one of the most important reasons why I choose this faith. It feeds my soul to be amongst friends who will accompany me as together we seek the truth in love. And I intend to do my part to tend our garden so it continues to survive and thrive.
John, that was lovely. Thank you so much. I'm going to see if I can remove my beak for a second here. There we go. Did y'all hear what John said, that we're growing a garden of souls? I really like that idea a lot. When I was about Colin and Ian and Elena's age, I lived in Missouri. It's an incredibly beautiful place with rolling green hills and blue lakes, and I loved it there. Though right now, folks there are trying to keep some of our LGBTQ friends and loved ones from getting medical care that they need. So sometimes I'm sad a little bit when I think about Missouri. But what I remember is a garden my dad planted. Does anybody have a garden here? Who's got a garden at their house? I see some hands down here. I know we got some fruit trees here. How about over here? Yep. Lots of gardens. And it was a big garden, but you know how sometimes you kind of look back at when you were a kid and stuff seemed much bigger then than it does now? Like beds, pillows, right? Like all those things. So maybe it's smaller than I remember, but I remember that he planted corn and that I could walk with my hands out like this and touch the stalks of corn. Have you guys ever done that? Try it sometime. It's really fun. And I could hear Bob White quail. And they make a little noise like this. They sound like they're saying Bob White. They go, and that's a really good memory for me. Now, some of you know that I've lived in a lot of different places over the years. And I plant a garden in every single one. Even if it's tomatoes in pots on a balcony. Even if it's wading pools full of basil and spinach on my driveway. Some people call gardening a hobby. But for me, it's one of my many ways to pray. And it's a kind of prayer that's full of wonder. Like when you see what 50-year-old roses can do when you move them out of the shade of tall pine trees that didn't exist when they were planted. Like when you explore a new yard and you find wild trillium flowers growing right up by the house when they ought to be way out in the woods. And you have a moment of deep communion with the gardener who lived there before you. Like when you're so worried about the cost of groceries and you have 3 little kids in your house and your garden just keeps giving and giving and giving. Fresh green peas and strawberries in the spring, and then juicy tomatoes and hearty beans in the summer, and then wheelbarrows full of heavy nut-colored squash that's sweet and orange when you break it open. Now, gardens are not a spiritual practice that you can neglect. When you plant a seed, what are some of the things that you have to do if you want it to grow? Kev, can you think of any? What do I have to do to a seed if I want it to grow? You have to water it. Once in a while, if you're thinking about it? Like once a week, once a month? Once a week, once a month, maybe. I water mine more often than that, but that's just me. But I think that we're making a promise when we plant a seed. We're making a promise to the plant that's going to emerge. Sometimes you can throw seeds down in the fall, and they'll come up on their own in the spring, and they'll do just fine. And Lily made some seed bombs last year that proved that, and a bunch of us took them home. But other times you have to water them every day and thin them out so they have enough room, or give them something to climb. And if you pray gardening, you learn to watch. You welcome the good bugs, like the ladybugs and the praying mantises, and you make life difficult for the ones that want to eat your plants, like flea beetles or squash bugs, my mortal enemies. And you learn to save seeds so that you can plant them next year. You realize there are a lot more kinds of every fruit and vegetable than you see in the grocery store. There are purple beans. There are pink potatoes. There are striped tomatoes. I want to grow them all. And I get very suspicious of companies that say certain kinds of seeds only belong to them. But the best thing I think about gardening is sharing. I love it when I can give people food from the garden. And did you guys know, I kind of want to celebrate it this year. There's a holiday in August called Sneak Zucchini Onto Your Neighbor's Porch Day. Let me tell you, I have been there. I also love the way gardeners share tricks and tips and swap plants because we all want each other to be successful. And we're also hoping that this summer we can share some of the skills that people use to save the food they grow, like canning and other ways of preserving food for winter. Give us a sign if that's something you've done before. Any canners here? Good to know. Marvelous. So that's really good because I know some of us wanted to make serviceberry jam this summer with the fruit from the tree. Yup. So everybody used to know how to do this stuff. We had to. It can't be that hard to learn. There didn't used to always be Meyer, right? So it's a skill we can relearn, a very important way to make sure our community has good food and that we can get it for ourselves, no matter what is happening in the wider world. And it's one of the most beautiful ways to pray I've ever found. So I invite everyone here to participate in our community garden in some small way this year and take the time to wander through it anytime you happen to drop by. You might be surprised how good it is for your spirit.
Together, hymn number 407. We're going to sit at the welcome table.
Fancy style at the welcome table one of these days, hallelujah. No fancy style at the welcome table. Gonna sit at the welcome table one of these days.
I want the world to be that welcome table. Don't you? Isn't that kind of why we show up here? We want to be a microcosm of that welcome table, and we want to see that replicated like a fractal across the entire world. But we are not there yet. And some of us are suffering because of that, because of systemic injustices, because of the slate of hate that is in this state and across the country, because reproductive rights are being attacked everywhere in the United States. How many of us went to sleep to gunshots last night? I did. The number one cause of death among children is gun violence in this country. Death by suicide, by gun in LGBTQ teens is on the rise. We need a welcome table. We need a welcome table where we can greet each other with love and honesty and vulnerability and be ready to create in solidarity. I want to share with you some information that came to me recently. 988 is a great resource for many people, but it is poison to the LGBTQ community. If you know someone who is struggling, that line has been very painful for the LGBTQ community. Please, please, please go to the Trevor Project. The Trevor Project has a crisis line. So I'm sharing that information with you. Please do share it. And I know that each of us has joys and sorrows on our own hearts today too. Births, anniversaries, deaths, mournings. We bring those into this space too, and we need not carry them alone. Part of being at the welcome table is the chaos that comes with conversation, honest conversation. Let's have those today as we are sorting seeds and pulling weeds. And let's bring that sense of welcome with us back into the community. I invite you into a moment of prayer with these words by Mary Oliver. It's called Praying. Wherever your heart is at right now, I invite you to be with these words as they wash through you. Because it doesn't have to be the blue iris. It could be weeds in a vacant lot or a few small stones. Just pay attention. Then patch a few words together and don't try to make them elaborate. This isn't a contest, but a doorway into thanks and a silence in which another voice may speak. In a moment, we are going to rise in body or spirit and sing together Fuente de Amor, Spirit of Life. We'll sing in Spanish first and then in English. If you don't have that tiny slip of paper, there are some just outside the door, and Charlie is going to lead us. So please rise in body or spirit as we sing together hymn number 123.
Fuente de amor, ven hacia mí, y al corazón cántale tu compasión, soplar, volar, sube en la mar, hasta moldear la justicia de la vida. Arraigame, libérame, fuente de amor, ven a mí, ven a mí. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blowing the wind, rising the sea, moving the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
I give to you in this moment the Peace of the Wild Things by Wendell Berry. When despair for the world grows in me, I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be. I go down and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world, and I am free. Nature does that, doesn't it? It gives us a sense of freedom when we pay attention to the way the breeze feels on our skin, when we feel the earth squish between our toes, when those cherry blossoms float across our face. We know or can sense that somehow we are a part of something larger, something beautiful, something that science is continuing to understand and explain, and yet so big, so beyond understanding. And it is, as the poets say, a wild and precious life. And we also live with the questions of how long will we have green grass growing? How long before it is set to flame by the earth's fiery temperatures? How long? In February 2023, a global climate report from the National Centers of Environmental Information reported that from December 22 to this February, the global surface temperature was 0.90 degrees Celsius, which is 1.62 degrees Fahrenheit, if the math is distracting you, above the 20th century average. This ranks as the 5th warmest December through February period, tied with 2018 and 2022 in a 174-year record. The past 9 December to February periods have ranked among the top 10 warmest periods in that 174-year time period. And of course, these rising temperatures affect the weather, food, supplies, our bodies, everything. We talk about climate change a lot here, and sometimes I feel like that phrase is bounced around a bit. So to help us with a common definition for today, I consulted a BBC article. And here's what they say. Climate change is the average weather in a place over many years. Climate change is a shift in those average conditions. The rapid climate change we're now seeing is caused by humans using oil, gas, and coal for their homes, factories, and transport. When these fossil fuels burn, they release greenhouse gases, mostly carbon dioxide. These gases trap the sun's heat and cause the planet's temperature to rise. The world is now about 1.1 degrees Celsius warmer than it was in the 19th century, according to this article. They continue to say that the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere has risen by 50%. 50%. Now, what this article doesn't talk about is big agriculture and the contribution to methane, and we know that that is incredibly important. So these statistics are scary, but there are things that we can do. All is not lost. As long as there is life, there is hope. And that's part of what we come to celebrate here on Sundays. Like, I'm all about the disco ball. Let's talk about hard things and let's find joy in the moment so that we have strength to be present to the hard things. As advocates in the community, those of us who've done lots of advocacy work, you can get burnt out. It can start to feel hopeless. Not only does life wear on us, but the constant losses take a toll. But when we make space for joy, when we let others in and share our vulnerabilities too, we can do this thing. We really can. So maybe some folks on the quilts or out here, maybe you can help me out. What are some things that we can do, or maybe that we've already started to do at All Souls, that can help us create more oxygen? So take some of that CO2 out of the air and create oxygen. Ada. Yep, 10% of climate change is from emissions from cars. Yeah, we. Yes. Yes. Thank you. Can I catch them up on this? Because this is all good stuff. So we could walk or bike more. And not only is that good for the environment, but the American Heart Association says that 20 or more minutes is good for our hearts too. So thank you, Ada. Nadia? We could recycle more. We have that great recycling setup out here. Yep, some people throw things away. Right. If we don't recycle, big chunks of earth are going to be landfills. Lay it on me. Yes, plant more trees. And we did that too, didn't we? Lily. We can compost, yes. And if you're like me and you're an epic failure at compost, there are also organizations that will compost for you. I've never successfully made it with compost, but there are ways you can partner with a neighbor or engage a service, and I'm happy to talk about one that we use locally. So these are all really good things that we can do. Eating a plant-based diet or eating more of a plant-based diet can help. And kind of knowing where your food comes from too, because you've heard me preach about quinoa production and what that's doing in its destruction of South America in terms of economic destruction as well as destruction of our ecosystem. And we're working on our garden, right? This is a way that we can generate more beauty in the world, we can generate more life, we can decrease our need to go to grocery stores or get our produce from somewhere else. And there's something else that our garden does too. You've heard me mention this statistic over the past few weeks. I want us to really hold it in mind. 17% of us and our 15-minute drive neighbors are below the poverty line. Many more of us are food insecure. And that affects all of us personally and communally in a lot of ways. And I wonder, as we look around at this gorgeous plot of land we have and we think about how we might live our values in this world, what if we looked at our land and wondered about how we might generate life and community per square inch of this gorgeous land? We can expand our community garden, making food for ourselves and our neighbors. We can can it together. And John, you're not alone in killing things. I don't garden. I have a houseplant that someday I'll preach about that it's made it. It's an aloe plant and it lives in spite of me. Or perhaps as a reminder that you can come from the Andes and be transplanted here and still make it. So So if you're like me and you're like, I'm not going to be out there, I don't know what to do, and I don't know that I have the bandwidth to learn right now, there's still a place for you to be engaged in the garden. We're cataloging seeds today, and sometimes sorting seeds, or maybe you don't want a can, but you'd love to support the canners. You could bake them some cookies or put the lids on the jars. I am excellent at putting lids on jars. You can join me in that. Yes. And together, we can truly feed each other, not just when we're physically gathered at the welcome table, but we can take bits of All Souls home with us and share it in that larger community and spread the welcome table, making sure that everyone has enough to eat. And if we're really feeling ambitious in how we're living our faith, we can think of this as steps towards being a net carbon zero community. I invite you to share on your connection cards today what you might be willing to do this coming year to save all souls, all of the souls in this garden, and provide sustainable food, cleaner air, healthier bodies, minds, and spirits, while creating justice and equity in a food supply system. We're not going to solve climate change with one gardening day, one veggie burger, or one anything. But if we keep stringing these actions together like sentences, we create prayers that will create change. In this case, reducing CO2 and methane and other greenhouse gases. We will have become the answered prayer. May it be so. Amen, and blessed be.
So each week at this time, we practice matching our giving with our values, and we give to support the mission and ministries of our congregation, and we share half of our weekly offering with an organization whose values align with ours. And this week, we are donating to the East Coast Migrant Head Start program, which we host in our RE wing during the week. So to contribute, you can place cash or check in the collection plate, or if online, you can go to allsoulsindy.org, where you'll find a link that says Give to All Souls here on the left side. Please indicate if your gift is a pledge payment or if it is for Share the Plate, if you're paying online or using a check. So thank you for your generosity in supporting the mission of All Souls, and for your continued love to one another and for this world. Take this moment to make your gift. Morning offering will now be given and received.
Thank you, Liz. Bruce and Cece, do you think we're hikeable today? All right. So friends, Bruce and Cece are right over here, and they're going to lead a walk on the All Souls Trail today. Bruce, thank you for the hard work you did cutting up the trees that fell on the trail recently. Those winds were pretty wicked. So you are, in just a few moments, we're going to head out to the garden, or you can hike, or you can come on into Harris Hall and help with seed sorting. I saw brownies come through the door earlier today, so wherever you're headed, you might want to stop there first. Just saying. For now, I gift you these words by Adrienne Rich. My heart is moved by all I cannot save. So much has been destroyed. I've cast my lot with those who age after age, perversely, with no extraordinary power, reconstitute the world. Let us begin our garden work. May it be so. Amen, and blessed be. You may rise now in body or spirit as we sing together hymn number 1064 before we head on our way to the garden.
Though below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing home my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on, greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue